Alabama at LSU, and this is Marco's best bet. 7 of 9 winners on Marco's best bet right here free. Marco, what you bettors be looking at?
I'm looking at this game. I've got Alabama as an undervalued commodity right now, and LSU is an overrated commodity, and I'll explain and break it down.
So this is a value play, and you actually tend to have two types of plays, trap plays and value plays. All right, so value play. Why is Alabama underrated?
Well, Alabama, after they lost the game to South Carolina, they flew under the radar because they had a couple close games. The week before that, they had a close scare against Arkansas. Then they blew out Florida. Then they lost to South Carolina. People are going to look at their 2 road games, which was the Arkansas game, which they had to come from behind to win, and then they're going to look at the South Carolina game and say they lost on the road there and say this is just an average football team.
So you're saying if you look at the scores, which most handy or most batters don't go much deeper than the scores, it would make sense that they don't value Alabama as highly as you do. What is it that you're seeing that they're missing?
That 3 games that I'm talking about there, they were all clustered around the Florida game. The Arkansas game was the week before Florida. The South Carolina game was the week after. Let me tell you that when it comes to the SEC and Alabama and Florida right now, that's where it's at. Alabama has had the history the last several years, championship games with Florida and everything. The Arkansas game, they got caught looking ahead to the Florida game, and then the South Carolina game, after they absolutely throttled Florida, this team was ripe for an upset, and it happened.
Okay. I tend to agree with you. And actually, in the odds makers poll, they had Alabama as, I think, maybe the 3rd or 4th best team right after they lost to South Carolina. It was a tough spot, like you said, 3rd tough game in a row, close game, they lost. How much does that really say about a team? And I tend to agree with you that they're a little underrated. Now, speaking of the odds makers poll, LSU, by their assessment, is overrated. So they agree with you there, too. BCS has them number 10, LSU. The odds makers have LSU at 17. So BCS at 10 versus 17, that's seven spots different, which really does speak to be a slightly overrated team. Why do you think LSU is overrated?
Well, people are looking at LSU. They were undefeated going into the Auburn game. So naturally, you can't get any better than undefeated. They only lost by 7 to the Auburn team. Well, this is the Auburn team that right now is in the public eye. They're a high-scoring team. They're undefeated.
So that looks like a loss that people can swallow.
Right.
All right, so why is that wrong?
Digging deeper into that, LSU was the perfect type of team, and if you remember, we did that video that week they played, and I said this is going to be an under. Even though that was the week following, Auburn had the highest scoring game in the SEC, the week against Arkansas. They scored 60-some points. LSU has a tremendous defense, and Auburn has no defense at all. So that pedestrian LSU offense can look better than normal against a defense as bad as Auburn's, and their defense was able to contain Auburn enough to keep them in the game. The difference here is Alabama has a balanced offense, but Alabama has a good defense. Probably maybe just a step below the LSU defense, but it's good enough to shut down this mediocre LSU offense.
Okay, now one of your pet theories is play against a team after the loss in college football that makes their season goal unattainable. Alabama's yet to have that loss. Right now, and we talked about in a prior video, in the TCU-Utah video, is everyone's projecting if Alabama wins out, they're going to make the BCS will have them number 2. So assuming that is I'm not certain that's the case, but I'm certain Alabama believes it is, or possibly the case. So they have the highest possible motivation. Would you agree with that?
Definitely.
All right, good. So that agrees with you on Alabama. Number 2, we talked about the theme this week was road teams and how these high-level professional road teams can do a lot better than the mediocre teams on the road because of the amount of support staff and all that stuff. Alabama's covered 10 of 14 on the road. So that's over 66%. This is a team that travels well.
I agree with you 100%. Goes to Saban's coaching abilities.
LSU is famous at home in night games. Don't look at my notes ahead.
We actually have the same one here about November.
All right, well, I'll let you do the November one. I saw you hunched over my clipboard right before we started taping, though. So,
Yeah.
but but the fact that all right, so let's get back on pace here. This is an afternoon game. LSU is famous in night games, like they've won 27 of 28 straight up. But this is an afternoon game, and just overall, night or home, LSU's only covered. They're 7 and 18, so 7 of 25 at home. So this is, maybe at night they're still really good. I'm not sure if they're not even overrated there. But in the day at home, they're overrated. So you've got a good traveling road team with Alabama. You've got perhaps a team whose home field is overrated. Another Alabama positive. Talk about November.
Well, under Les Miles, and I think you have the stat a little bit bigger, but I'm looking under Les Miles. This team in November, 1-8 against the spread.
Now, I got 1-10 ATS. Now, we talked about the months where November is the end of the year. There's very few games played in December, as we said. So really, you're saying the last 4 games of the year or so, how does this team do? That, to me, is a very valid trend. This team finishes on a downslope.
Right. At the end of the season, there's 2 factors. Either you're packing it in for the season if your season's going bad, or if you're in the thick of things, now each game is pressure packed. And that goes back to Les Miles. We've talked many times. His coaching style was so conservative. I think it hurts him in point spreads. But as I always do point out to you, it's different being a dog than being a favorite if your coaching style is close. We talk about that with Jim Tressel a lot.
Okay, so give us your official projection.
I've got Alabama by 2 touchdowns. I've got them. This is my best bet. Alabama 27-13. And as we said,
27-13.
27-13. I am 7-2 with these games, and I can put an asterisk. If we take away me going against New England, I'm 7-0.
You know, when I tweet this out, I'm going to say 7-2. I'm not going to say 7-0 except for Pat's games. All right. Let me see here. You know, actually, I actually had a best bet on the Thursday night game this week, but this was my second choice as a best bet. I love Alabama here.
I like
too.
Alabama. Just wanted to say one other thing to tell listeners. If they want to get 2 more premium free picks from me, check out my homepage on the weekends, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, marcodangelo.com. I give out 2 more picks, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. We hit them both
So
last
you do
week.
videos for these.
I do a video for
you
these.
don't have me.
I don't have you.
And
so
the views are way down because of that. So what we need to do, guys, I'm going to go to the 2 camera dust, is Marco's been feeling bad. He's saying, what could it be? I'm Marco D'Angelo, but why are the views triple when RJ's here? So I'm going to say, for all of the RJ fans out there, give these videos a shot. It's marcodangelo.com. And to be honest, here's the thing. It's not going to be quite as good. I agree with you there. But when you do watch next week's videos and I'm here, you're going to appreciate it all the more. All right.
all I can say is wow.
Now it's your turn, though, to continue the conversation in the comments section with Marco and me. And next up, we're going to be moving to, why did we pick this game? Oklahoma, Texas A&M. You must really like it. Well, listen, this isn't an exciting game, but Marco must have a strong opinion, so we'll be back with that.